Well, good day, everybody. This is Chris with the Ancient Scholar. Hope this video finds you all doing well. Happy weekend. And I wanted to do a quick follow-on video to the ongoing saga of the Google Pixel 10. It's been out for about 6 months now, and I've been using it. Not as a daily driver so much, but I do use it as my work phone. So I'm using it daily. But I'm not daily driving it, if that makes any sense. And so I just want to go ahead and talk about my extended review as such. It's a 6-month review of the phone, good, bad, and ugly. So here it is. And let's just kind of go through some of the major aspects of the phone. So first, let's talk about the design of the phone. The design is essentially the Pixel 9 design. You would be very hard pressed to tell this apart from the Pixel 9, other than the fact that there's an 2-3 camera setup in the rear, and the color options are a bit different, and that's about it. But otherwise, it's essentially the same design, and I like it. I think it is one of the best looking phones on the market. It certainly sets itself apart. It's a bit unique, and you can certainly tell that you're dealing with a Pixel. I also like the fact that the pill goes all the way across the phone, and it does allow you to set it on a table. It doesn't wobble. So it's really nice. And look at this. Look at this D-brand skin here. Ooh, not a sponsor. I don't make any money off of any content that I put up. But I really do think D-brand is killing it with the skins that they offer. So I do have a D-brand skin on this. So as far as the design goes, I have to say I'm a pretty big fan, but it's nothing different from last year or from the Pixel 9. It's essentially the same design. So it's not like there's some market improvement compared to the Pixel 9, but it's the same design. I like it. Let's go ahead and talk about the screen. It is essentially the same screen as a Google Pixel 9. I think it's a bit brighter, but other than that, it's essentially the same size, the same bezels, more or less. Yeah, it uses a slightly older version of the Gorilla Glass, which compared to a lot of the contemporary flagship phones that are out there right now. I believe it's about the same that was on the Pixel 9, the Gorilla Glass 2 or 3 or whatever. It's a couple of years behind some of the more contemporary offerings, but I put screen protectors on all my phones, so it doesn't really matter. And that goes for the anti-glare technology that is starting to make its way onto phones. The Galaxy has apparently a really good anti-glare setup. The newer iPhones have an anti-glare coating as well, but I run screen protectors, so that kind of ameliorates that technology. It is a 120 hertz display. It's not a top-of-the-line LTPO display, which can go down to that can adjust from 1 to 120 hertz, like we now see on the base iPhones, starting with the iPhone 17. But it's still a pretty good display. It can shift between 60 and 120 hertz. It's the same kind of display that has been on the base Pixel, or the base flagship Pixel, for the last few years. It's not industry leading, but it looks good. It's bright. I like the color representation on it, and I don't really have any complaints there. The processor is the Tensor 5, and there are a lot of people that are going to go on about benchmarks, but at the end of the day, does anybody really care all that much about processor? Certainly, if you have a very specific set of tasks in mind, i.e. you're big into mobile gaming for whatever reason, and you need, they're just certain specific tasks, then you are going to gravitate toward a specific phone. So there are certain tasks like heavy gaming, video editing, perhaps, some of those things that may be limited using the Pixel. The Tensor just doesn't have that raw performance. But it's optimized for a lot of the artificial intelligence that's baked in to the newer Pixels, which is actually pretty remarkable. I can't lie about that. But with that said, from a day-to-day use, I don't really notice any differences between the Tensor 4 and the Tensor 5. Well, there are some differences with how the phone functions overall. I'm not certain that that's necessarily a Tensor issue. I think there's some other things going on with optimization, but just from a day-to-day, I really don't notice any difference between the Tensor 4 on the Pixel 9 and the Tensor 5 on the Pixel 10. It works for the type of phone experience that I want, and I suspect that's going to be a type of phone experience that a lot of people are going to be looking for. So no complaints there. Battery life is about like the Pixel 9. Maybe the 9 was a little better. I think maybe I had a little better battery life on the Pixel 9 compared to the 10, if I'm being honest, but it's roughly on par. It does charge about the same as the Pixel 9, maybe a little faster. It does have the Pixel Snap built into it, which is kind of like what iPhone has had for the last few years. I believe it's Qi 2 compatible. I don't really use any of that, so I can't really say if it's a game changer. It might be if people have those sorts of accessories that they're using with their phone. That actually might be a game changer with the Pixel 10. But for me, it really isn't. I don't even wirelessly charge my phones, but it is an option that didn't exist on the Pixel 9 that may or may not push your purchasing valence in a certain direction. Okay, biometrics, essentially the same biometrics as a Pixel 9. It has got, look at that, it has got an amazing and an amazingly fast ultrasonic under the screen screen-based fingerprint sensor. I love it. I like it. Actually, I like it more than the iPhone Face ID. This does have Face Unlock, and it is very quick. It works very well as long as you have lots of light. It is not quite as secure as something like Face ID on the iPhone that uses an infrared dot projector. This is just optically based. It's not quite as secure for banking transactions and things like that, but for just getting into your phone and accessing applications and whatnot, it's great. I really like it. Yeah, so biometrics overall I like quite a bit, but it's the same setup as you had in the Pixel 9. All right, let's get to the overall, actually let's talk about the cameras next. The cameras are a bit of a mixed bag, and this is essentially what I've said on prior videos about this phone. It's a two steps forward, or one step forward, two steps back kind of experience, in my opinion. The overall camera system, I would say overall, compared to the Pixel 9 last year, is a downgrade. The primary camera and the ultra-wide camera are essentially the same setup that you have on the Pixel 9a. That is to say that the sensors are quite a bit smaller compared to the Pixel 9, and even though Pixel can do a lot of interesting things with processing, artificial intelligence and that, there just comes a point where you just can't really overcome hardware limitations, and this camera system is fairly compromised compared to the Pixel 9. I would say overall the Pixel 9 takes much better pictures on the average than the Pixel 10, with a few exceptions that I'll mention. The main camera on this is pretty similar to the Pixel 9. I would say that the quality downgrade is fairly minimal. So it's roughly comparable. It's the same megapixels, it's just the sensor still smaller. The ultra-wide camera, however, is a substantial downgrade compared to the ultra-wide camera on the Pixel 9. So your overall camera experience, I think, is a downgrade on the Pixel 10. The only exception being the Pixel 10 now has a 10.5 megapixel 5-power optical zoom telephoto lens. And it is actually pretty good. It's good if you have a lot of light. If you have compromised light, or you have difficult lighting situations or you need a lot of HDR, it does tend to falter. So if you have, well lit scenery, it's pretty decent. It takes a pretty decent telephoto, and I would say that it's certainly better than the Pixel 9 telephoto wise, and it is certainly better than like the base iPhone 17, because it doesn't offer any sort of telephoto. But when you take the camera system, and I'll include the front camera, which is essentially the same as the Pixel 9, basically. I think it might be downgraded just a little bit. But when you put it all together in a blender and you just kind of look at the average experience, it's definitely not as good as the Pixel 9. It's a downgrade overall, even with the nice addition of that telephoto camera. It's just too compromised, and it really is a downgrade. So that's a mixed bag. And then the last thing I'll comment on is the overall operational experience with the phone. And as you all remember, from my prior videos, I had a lot of issues with this phone getting it set up. It was crashing. It did some really crazy things where it in the middle of the night, while I was sleeping, it notified all my contacts and notified 911. It thought there was some emergency going on when there wasn't, and that was a big ordeal. And it was just the first couple of months that I had this phone were really challenging. And I would say after the September update, it got a lot better. That said, even now, there are times when it will slow down, freeze up, and quit working, and I'll have to close applications out, restart the phone. And in fact, this just happened in the last couple of days on Google Photos, a native Google application on the phone. I'll post a video clip of that happening. So I'm still continuing to have some issues on this phone that I never had on the Pixel 9. The Pixel 9 experience was so smooth and seamless. It really was kind of the apotheosis of stock base Android. And in my experience, that's not what I'm getting on the Pixel 10. And that's probably what has put me off from this phone most. Now, I understand a lot of other people, probably most people from what at least reviewers, are not having the issues that I've had. So, take my experiences for what they are. just an, n equals 1, but it really has put me off from the Pixel 10. And as I understand it, from what I've seen, is that the drivers on this that the Pixel 10 uses are drivers that are not optimized for the video experience, and apparently they have yet to be fully updated, which is 6 months on, and they have the drivers aren't the right drivers, if that's true. And that may be a lot of the lingering issues that I'm having, is we need the appropriate update. But be that as it may, when I take the overall experience and I compare it to the overall experience that I had in the Pixel 9, it's my opinion the Pixel 9 is probably the better phone. It's more stable. I do know there are a couple of like AI features that the 10 offers that the 9 didn't, but just overall, from an overall package, I think the Pixel 9 was just a better, well-optimized experience. I will say probably the most pleasant addition to the Pixel 10, and this has been fairly recent, is essentially Google was able to hack the AirDrop system that iPhone uses, and you can now essentially AirDrop with your Pixel. I believe only the Pixel 10s are doing this right now, and I gotta say, it's actually quite nice. I won't lie, that one feature, I know sometimes people have a singular feature that really makes or breaks a phone for them, and I would say that one feature is really compelling. I don't know if it by itself is enough for me to say that this is a better overall phone than the Pixel 9. I just think overall they've kind of taken a step back. If they just kind of stuck with the Pixel 9 template, crammed a Tensor G5 into this, maybe upgraded the camera system slightly, or just kept the same system and upgraded and just stuck with the current upgrades, and went with a 256 gigabyte base storage. If they just did like some basic things like that, and then just gave us essentially a Pixel 9 version 2 with updated storage, right? Because 128 gigabytes in 2026 on a flagship phone is kind of interesting. If they'd done that, and not even given us a telephoto lens, just kept the same 2 lenses, I think, and had an optimized experience, I think the Pixel 10 would have been a big hit, in my opinion. But it's just so compromised compared to how good the Pixel 9 was that I personally can't recommend it. I would say if you absolutely want to have the Pixel 10 Pro or Pro XL, probably going to be a better option for you, maybe. The Pixel 10 might be a good option if you're looking at upgrading from a much older, Pixel 8 and older perhaps. But certainly if you have an 8, I would say even an 8, if you have an 8 or Pixel 8 or Pixel 9, unless you just get an amazing trade-in, which I got a pretty decent trade-in, but I'd kind of like to have my Pixel 9 back, honestly. I like that phone so much. And unfortunately, I hate to say that. I know I'm sounding like somewhat of a hater, and I'm really not, because the Pixel 9 was just glorious phone for me. And maybe it was just the Pixel 9 was so good, then that's why I'm disappointed with the Pixel 10. So hopefully in the next few weeks, I know we're getting a big feature drop coming up in March, I believe. maybe that will fundamentally change my experience. But again, I think the compromise is, especially with the cameras, that's a lot to get over. When you're really looking at, this is a flagship phone, really, right? There's a lower end, the Pixel 9a, and then presumably the Pixel 10a. Well, the Pixel 10a coming out next week, I believe. And I mean, honestly, I would think that if you're looking to get an entry-level Pixel, maybe the Pixel 10a would be a good option. I know my wife had the Pixel 9a, and it was a pretty good phone, for what it was. It's significantly cheaper than this. It's essentially the same camera system without the zoom, but the overall experience, I found the Pixel 9a was better optimized than this. It didn't crash and have all the issues that I have with this. So I would say, if you're really looking to upgrade to a contemporary Pixel, maybe look at the 9a or wait a week and see what the 10a holds. But I think a 9a would be a great option, and you can get them for really damn cheap right now. Yeah, in fact, we still have my wife's old 9a. There have been a lot of days where I've just been like, fuck it, I'm just gonna transfer everything over to that 9a, and at least I can have an experience that is smooth compared to what I've been getting. So there you have it. Unfortunately, it's not that I hate the phone and that it's terrible. It's just definitely not up to the level of the Pixel 9. So that's kind of where I'm at. Hopefully you all found this video helpful or amusing or whatever, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.